Hey guys, my name is Discourse and welcome to another video on the Batman miniatures game. So today I'm just going to run through all of the reveals and teases that Night Models have so far issued for the new content on May 2021. So the first thing to go over is the Cesar Romero Joker. He was of course revealed. I have used his image in a few recent videos, so you've probably already seen him on the channel. He was revealed at the end of last month, which was a little bit early for Night Model's usual schedule. You can see here that he is posed on a surfboard from the iconic surfing scene from the Adam West Batman. So we don't know what he's going to look like in terms of stats or traits. He'll probably come bundled with the usual Chaos Agent trait that all the other Jokers come with, though aside from that, it's really anyone's guess. I'm not super familiar with the Adam West Batman, so I'm not sure if he had any iconic items or traits or skills or abilities, aside from, of course, the mustache, which is sadly not included on this model. But I'm guessing that he's going to be a pretty cheap model, pretty cheerful, just like Adam West Batman. And with the reveal of this character, it looks like they are going to be continuing the Batman 66 releases. Now, I had actually thought that these would replace the sort of silly henchmen, the Legends of the Dark Knight releases, because let's be honest, they have a very similar sort of vibe. But we have another silly release this month from the Legends of the Dark Knight line, so it does look like these will be in addition to the mainline releases. By the by, I rewatched Batman 89 and Batman Returns the other day, and man, I'd really love to see a Nicholson Joker. I think he gets overshadowed quite a bit by Hamill and Ledger, but he did a really good job portraying a, quote, homicidal artist. He was a very specific style of Joker, so I'd really love to play a crew based on his gang from the movie with their leather jackets with the Joker face on the back of it. I think he could work really well as the first Joker without the Chaos Agent trait, actually, and maybe a special action of some kind based on the sort of Joker helicopter that he has in the movie that would maybe let him teleport around the board once per game. I'd really dig that. But anyway, there's more stuff to get through, so let's go. Yeah, so Night Models have also revealed this character here. This is the Razor. This is a very deep dive by Night Models. The miniature itself is very cool, honestly. He has a very awesome pose and would probably work well as a skeleton for some other models. Just looks like a very intimidating, strong guy. And then, of course, there's the legs there. You can see of the dynamic duo of Batman and Robin too, which is a really nice and awesome touch, which would be add a little bit of color to the character. Night Models honestly have knocked it out of the park in terms of this miniature style, in my opinion. I think he looks like very intimidating, especially for a guy with a sort of rubber pencil head as a mask. So I did have to look this guy up because I didn't know anything about him. His real name is Lenny Fiasco, which is sort of amazing, and his theme is that he is, appropriately enough, he erases the evidence of crimes, right? So I like to imagine something like the wolf from Pulp Fiction, but, you know, wearing a giant rubber on his head, which, in my opinion, probably hurts his ability to hide the evidence of crimes, right? Like, I mean, if this guy comes running into a bank to rub fingerprints off surfaces, and he's got this giant pencil rubber head over his face, I mean, I'm gonna note what that guy's up to. But, by the by, so, yeah, he's very over the top, obviously. He's pretty silly. He comes from the comics and was actually created by Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne asked out a girl that he was interested in, and then he decided to become a supervillain after that. So, once again, Bruce Wayne, bringing more villains to Gotham, as per usual. So, his theme is that he erases clues, right? So, we're probably going to see It's Mine, the trait It's Mine, which prevents others from picking up suspect markers around you, or maybe some sort of custom trait that allows him to remove suspect markers from the board. That could be really useful. These sillier henchmen, they're sort of formally part of a Legends of the Dark Knight style of line from Night Models. They tend to be sort of middling cost henchman models, and they come bundled with very specific and niche utility traits. I do like that they all have a sort of niche. It gives you a reason to bring some of these sillier henchmen and add a little bit of color to otherwise, you know, what can be sometimes relatively drab and normal crews. So it's fun. It's a good way of including these very, very deep dive sort of characters that not a lot of people have heard of before. So yeah, I like that they all do have that niche, and they give you an excuse to bring the models. Except for Calendar Man, who doesn't really have a niche and instead feels a little bit busted, I think. But yeah, but most of the other ones have all been done excellently. Night Models did release a tease last month as well, in the form of a quote. They posted a picture with the quote of, it says, "If you have a gun, you can rob a bank, but if you have a bank, you can rob anyone." So this quote itself, there are variations of this quote from Bertolt Brecht. He's a German poet. There's also comes from Mr. Robot, the TV show, which I've never watched, and Bill Maher as well, the American comedian. I've been told that this is an explicit reference to Black Mask in some capacity. I just haven't been able to find a source for the quote itself from a Batman comic, but I'm sure it exists somewhere in there. It's not, it's a relatively trite sort of quote. So if you do know where this comes from, please do let me know in the comments below. I'd be really interested in that. So I have to go ahead and just assume then that it is really the Black Mask, that the people in the sort of comment section of Facebook are correct, that this is indeed a reference to Black Mask, and that is super exciting. So Black Mask obviously is essentially a given at this stage, considering that his character-specific objective card was revealed with the release of the objective cards deck box, and his card does reward him for dealing more blood markers to enemy models than there are friendly models on the board. So I expect that if we do see a release from him, it'll probably be a big base version of the character on the 40mm/60mm sort of base set, and it'll probably be coming in at a similar reputation cost, I can only imagine, as Two-Face, so around the 100 reputation mark. And then we'll probably get, maybe, fingers crossed, a Black Mask crew of some kind, with a crew box of some kind with a free agent in there of a named villain of some kind, similar to the Two-Face crew box that came with Hush. So obviously the organized crime crew traditionally consists of a lot of weaker henchmen. So they are a bit of a horde crew. They tend to be relatively lesser armed guys in suits, really, I think is this sort of meme of those characters. So I'm hoping that we see a box that actually plays a little bit into the Black Mask objective card, giving us some tougher mobster models, some beefier kind of characters, similar to what we saw with Two-Face, and just, kind of more towards the 30 reputation mark, maybe less of a focus on range compared to the Two-Face gangsters, more melee sort of orientation for Black Mask, I think. And with those kind of beefier characters, I think that should give Organized Crime a really, really flexible roster going forward into 3rd edition, especially considering that a lot of the sort of bosses for Organized Crime tend to be pretty weak characters overall, right? Like, they come bundled with a lot of special actions, but not a lot of meat. Not a lot of meat there. So guy characters that are pretty glass-jawed, right? So maybe some big beefy sort of bodyguard characters would be really, really good. In terms of new free agents that we might see in such a box, maybe we could see someone like Phantasm. Phantasm would be really cool, but I'm hoping that they actually give Phantasm a big base model, just because I really, really love that character. So I'm hoping we don't see Phantasm in there, but obviously the Phantasm character has a relationship with Organized Crime, mostly a hostile one. I think a Phantasm character model would work really well in the next coming few months, now that Organized Crime seem to be getting a little bit of a spotlight. But aside from that character, obviously we're not really missing any big names now, right? Maybe except for Hugo Strange is the only one that really springs immediately to mind, or of course Zsasz, Victor Zsasz. Now Zsasz is obviously the more obvious candidate. He's more likely, I'd say, considering his relationship to the Ewan McGregor Black Mask character in The Birds of Prey. So that could be a likely pairing, and I think would work really well as a sort of unknown henchman, or, well, maybe not even a henchman, as a free agent. I think Zsasz probably is at the stage where he deserves to be a free agent, at that sort of tier of level, a little bit expensive, not as, reputation cost or funding cost, not as expensive as a lot of the other free agents, because I don't think that Victor Zsasz is a character that is particularly impressive, right? He's mostly just a serial killer, but his theme and style, I think, works really, really well in Organized Crime. Obviously, there was the version of him from Gotham as well, which used a lot of gunplay, but I think in terms of comics, he's more sort of based on his knives, so I could see him being more of a sort of combo knives kind of character, with essentially the equivalent of a shiv, right? I think that could be really interesting, maybe with Hidden or something like that. I think we're going to see a character sort of like that included in the crew box. I think that could go really well with the Black Mask character, who probably is going to be a little bit more focused on melee fighting, because the resource of his character card actually allows your characters to take damage and gain attack markers, which obviously only work for melee. So it's kind of I think maybe a sort of equivalent to Two-Face crew box that is more melee oriented and obviously slotted into the Organized Crime could be a really, really cool one, and could be very, very interesting. just my luck, right after I recorded this segment, Night Models have revealed the new Black Mask model, so I was right on the money. So here he is in all of his glory. It's a beautiful sculpt, loving the pinstripe waistcoat look. He's a pretty gruesome model, actually. It makes him look like he's going to be a pretty nasty character, which does honestly fit his style. He's pictured here on a 60mm base, but I think it's likely that he'll have a 40mm base option as well. Worst comes to worst, looks like you could probably just plop him down on a normal sort of base there. He's got a pretty nice dynamic pose, pretty intimidating pose. It's hard to tell from the model if he comes with a ranged option, but the tools on that table, they're just little surgical tools. They do seem to suggest that he will be melee oriented, just as that's speculated. I just hope that he doesn't come with intel support, because I think that Black Mask really does suit being on the field and getting his hands very dirty, thus the necessity for the little gloves there. And he'll probably come with traits like cruel and kill them as well. So probably, yeah, a very strong leader model. So hopefully we see more releases for him this month. And then Night Models have also organized their website, so the download section on their website includes everything that was previously on the OneDrive that Night Models were curating. This is really awesome, and it means that a lot of the resources that were available to players are now far more clear and accessible now for newer players. And let's be honest, I think a lot of this information was previously relatively obscured just by Night Models just having it up on a sort of OneDrive. It was really hard to find. The website was kind of hard to navigate, so it's really nice that they've made this information more accessible. And this means it's a lot easier to get access to the resources that honestly are, you know, necessary for the game if you haven't purchased the objective card set or the starter box. So they have the rules and updates here, as well as the objective decks for every single crew so far that has been released. Now, there doesn't seem to be any links to the decks at the time of recording, but they should hopefully have those links sorted out soon. And then there's the same for the Harry Potter miniatures game and the DC Universe miniatures game as well. So this may not be the most exciting or audacious news, but I do love to see initiatives like this. The game has a bit of a barrier to entry in terms of certain aspects of the resources, of learning its existence, for one, but also for things like the rulebook and the online resources like the decks of cards. They're pretty hidden and hard to find. So increasing the accessibility of the game is great and does help to grow the player base, in my opinion. And it's just more professional as well, too. It's good to see Night Models taking an interest in sort of fixing that up and making the website a lot cleaner and a lot crisper. I've definitely noticed a lot of updates to the website over the last few months. So I'm hoping that they continue this trend and even fix some of the issues that some people have had with making orders whenever they don't have an account, or the use of PayPal, I think, for UK customers as well has been down. So hopefully this sort of trend continues. So that's everything that's been teased and revealed so far. This likely isn't all that will be getting released this month. We're probably going to see a lot more. I was actually waiting for more reveals before producing this video, but I think that the problems with the objective decks earlier this month, linked to my video on that above, that has pushed back a lot of the reveal schedule, so we'll likely begin to see more reveals this week. So hopefully it's another great month full of content, and I will of course go over those on the channel when they're revealed. Last month was a bit of a special case because the starter box and objective cards were the main releases, but we'll probably be returning to new crew boxes this month, which I'm really excited for. So thank you for joining me today, and if you haven't already, please do check out my videos on the top 3 cards for each of the crews, where I explore the playstyle of each crew and then discuss the best cards in their deck. They're pretty useful if you're interested in one of the crews that I've covered so far, and I will be covering them more. I'm getting those out at a fairly regular pace, so more of those will be coming out in the coming weeks. And of course, if you did enjoy this content, please do throw us a thumbs up and do subscribe to be notified of more content in the future by clicking the wee bell button. And yes, thanks a lot for joining me today, and I hope you have a pleasant evening. Bye bye.